Thank you very much, Francisco, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me welcome you all to this new edition of the Mining and Raw Materials MBA. As you will know, it's based on a regular kind of MBA, but with I would say, more than a hint of what the mining and raw materials is about, for around really less than 1/3 of the total duration, number of hours of the MBA. And I must also give you my congrats on choosing this very peculiar and rather unique MBA worldwide, simply because it's I've never seen, and I think no one has, and never was, a time where raw materials were so much, in a frivolous way, I would say, like trendy. It is much more than that. I would be saying like they've never been so much needed as they are, and they will be for a number of decades going forward. You know, this MBA has been thought of and conceived and developed for a wide range of potential interested professionals, from people specialized with significant or little experience in mining itself, in all the downstream industries attached to mining, in upstream, of course, geology, mining, metallurgy, steel making, cement making, chemicals, and but at the same time, it's been also designed to satisfy the interests of professionals who not necessarily are in the world of mining, and if they are in the world of raw materials, they are there in an indirect way. And what I mean by that is that people who are professionals who are in the banking industry, investment banking, law firms, trading houses, logistic companies. So, and of course, mining and all the range of diverse kind of industries that in some way need or supply the raw materials world. So, and you'll see that along the course, you'll be seeing that many of the subjects and disciplines that will be taught, that will be explained to you guys, will serve for no matter what kind of activity you're in. And I'll talk about one, in my opinion, a very good example, which is a extreme example. If you think, for example, of the way that metals are traded and priced worldwide, which is through metals exchange markets, you'll see that all the transactions that are made in those markets, in those organized markets, are exactly the same as in the stock exchange, for example, in the world of shares, of trading shares worldwide, or also traded in other big markets such as the oil market, or even the freight, the ocean freight market, the most well known of them all being the Baltic exchange, freight exchange. So I think it is intended to cover a wide range of activities, a wide range of kind of companies, whether or not they are directly connected to mining as such. In some way, they all will be connected directly or indirectly to, in some way, to the world of raw materials. I was saying that that the world of raw materials is giving us indications that it's already reached, and it'll go still further and higher. Indications that that were never seen before in the history of mankind. And I'll give you the reasons and also the science for this statement. Let's say maybe I can start by design. The design, there is a very simple and perhaps a rather simplistic way of realizing how important they're becoming, and this is the prices that these metals and other raw materials are quoted at, and these are record prices for a big number of materials, in gold, copper, tin, platinum, palladium, maybe silver above all, the one that has increased the most in just 1 year, multiplying its value by 3 in a year time. But also those raw materials that are not necessarily categorized as critical, like aggregates, cement, phosphoric rock, potash, ornamental rocks. All of these materials are showing a fantastic bonanza, and then maybe, of course, whether the world is becoming more or less globalized, or it was more maybe globalized at the beginning of the century, and is becoming, some say that it's less globalized, and I like to give some my own color on this. I don't think that the world is less globalized. I understand globalization by those effects that are noticed by anyone in the world, starting from a very little move somewhere else, any other place in the world, maybe the furthest place in the world. Some call it the butterfly effect, meaning that the fly of a butterfly will have some effect at the antipodes of where the butterfly is. In today's world, however, this globalization is clearly different to what it was and it meant by the beginning of this century. It is that the world is more fragmented, trade is more fragmented, geopolitics are playing a much stronger role than it was just a few years ago, 10, 15 years ago, for a quite wide variety of reasons as well. But maybe the most important economic blocs in the world have realized that they can't just in a limited way rely on other blocs for satisfying their own markets, their own industry, the needs of the population. And therefore, they are all playing their own roles, their own programs. They are planning their own programs for developing their industry and their access to raw materials. This I would say that are the signs that we are seeing, that everyone is noticing when looking and you know, giving some thought to what's going on in the world of raw materials. Then why is this happening? I've mentioned geopolitics and the strategic autonomy of the various big blocks in the world, and not only big blocks. We are primarily talking about the United States, the European Union, China, but then you all know that there are newcomers in the world scene showing up as a very powerful areas or countries. India, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Latin America. All those are also players that that have, of course, their own needs and have their own plans and projects, sometimes jointly, sometimes individually. But now, why is this happening? What's the core of all these effects that we're in some or other way seeing? First of all, I'll mention something that is not always mentioned. It is demography and urbanization. There is an amazing phenomenon, especially in the less developed countries or areas of the world, including China, India, Africa, Latin America, where the demographic growth is amazing, and the urbanization is amazing. Just to give you an example, China in recent years has been confronted with coping with the effect of, or the consequences of millions of people, some years as many as 20 million people migrating from rural areas to the cities, and therefore needing housing, needing transport, needing schools, needing electric power, roads, everything, infrastructure, and every single new household that is built in the world, no matter where, anywhere in the world, contains around 1 kilo of copper per square meter of the area of the household in question. This has never happened before. This has never happened before. And so this is one of the things. But then we have the world of energy, the world of and the energy transition. And I must stress here that some say that this is a transition to renewable energy. And I don't deny that, but I'd like for it to cover a much wider significance of what we call transition, energy transition, because for example, transition to renewable energy is not only based nowadays in, maybe the primary reason is not what it was some 10 years ago or 15, i.e. the decarbonization, the concern on climate change, and therefore the fighting of climate change by reducing the CO2 emissions of any origin, and now, and not only now, but already 6-7 years back, we've seen that photovoltaic or air generators from photovoltaic energy or air generators are much more economical than traditional sources of energy generation or power generation, such as coal, gas-fired power plants, nuclear, and others. Only with the exception of hydropower, these two that I mentioned, called renewable, are more economical and then make some countries that have been traditionally very much dependent on fossil fuels becoming more autonomous. So the attraction is at least threefold. First, is care for the environment. Second, it is cheaper. Third, it gives the area or the country in question much more autonomy. But then this energy transition doesn't only consist of the power generation. We all know, and of course it's on every newspaper every day, everywhere in the world, is the transition to electric vehicles. And some may say that it's not being developed as fast as it was thought to be, and it's true. And this is happening to many other phenomena that maybe politicians have bet on things in specific dates for their own programs and for their own propaganda. And now the specific dates, round dates like 2030 or 2050, are just they were just picked up because they look good, because they or they meet their own aspirations, politically speaking, but were not based on reality, on fundamented studies or calculations. But is a non-stop phenomenon or phenomena when we talk about EV and power generation. Then more recently, we are all hearing and reading about data centers all over the world. Data centers need a lot of energy, need a lot of a big amount of different metals. Metals this time are, though in this case, are metals that are considered as critical. So putting all that together, and I get back to the strategic autonomy, is resulting in this overwhelming demand of these materials. And one thing, I love to give an example regarding the non-critical raw materials such as limestone or clay, or those raw materials that play the key role for cement making, for example. And taking into account that one of the big wind generators today requires 10,000 tons of cement in its foundation. So you can realize the big number of these wind generators that are being built all over the world now, with over 5 megawatt installed capacity each. How it'll drag the cement industry in its production and in distribution, and therefore all the raw materials that are involved in cement making, such as the ones I mentioned, but also iron ore, or any material with iron content that is needed for the clinker making. Gypsum, of course, as well as the last aggregated cement needs. The aggregate industry itself for the production of concrete. So now, like I said, each of the big blocks are making their own programs to develop and to improve their access to raw materials, that we're talking about. We start by the European Union with its Critical Raw Materials Act that was launched a couple of years ago, and it aims at improving access to 34, 35 critical materials that are not easily accessible in the European Union, that very much needed for the industry of the European Union as a whole. And then but also the European Union have realized that the non-qualified as critical raw materials, as the industrial rocks that I've already mentioned, I've mentioned limestone, clay, potash, phosphate rock, ornamental rocks, marl, feldspar, and in addition to that, they've realized in Europe and elsewhere that not only is needed the search for these materials, which requires a lot of investment in geological research in Europe, but also the transformation of these raw materials into the final product that the population requires in terms of the TV screens, air conditioning sets, refrigerators, cars, and a long list of goods that make our lives a little easier every day. Then the U.S., before the Trump era, they had launched the so-called IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that despite of this a little awkward, or not awkward, but strange name, meant the fostering and the promotion of the access to all these same materials as Europe has. China has its permanent 5-year programs with strong development of their infrastructure, and they've maybe the fastest in taking measures to satisfy the needs by not only developing their own industry in their own country, but by investing in raw materials in various parts of the world, such as Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. They've already have a very strong presence in all these areas of the world. Indonesia, the Copper Belt in Africa, Peru in South America especially. All these areas in other ones, like I mentioned, have their own programs, and they don't rely anymore, or we don't rely anymore on other areas to satisfy our needs. I think the population of the whole world have realized that they must solve their own problems by reaching their own resources and transform these resources into final goods. So, all in all, these various facts that are and trends that I've tried to list leads to a big fostering of the geological research all over the world, the mining itself, mine exploitation, metallurgy, steel making, cement making, chemicals primarily those who need the raw materials that we miners produce, such as I've already mentioned, those of those two of those, sorry, potash and phosphate rock for making of fertilizer. So in companies themselves are more and more conscious of that, and we are all taking care of trying to grasp the opportunities that we are finding ahead and investing, improving the talent of our organizations quantitatively and qualitatively. And I've not mentioned something that is becoming more and more essential, which is recycling. And now, once we've mentioned all that, I may say that all that I've said is included in one way or the other in the program of this mining and raw materials MBA. And let me just give you some flavor on what the course will consist of. I don't know if you guys are being able to see on the screen what I'm showing. Yeah? Fine. Then some basic facts like history of mining and raw materials, the characteristics of them, discovery and production of raw materials, and following the whole value chain from a mine deposit, a mineral deposit, to the final product that the mine in its transformation behind leads to. The relationship between producers and consumers, so the marketing of raw materials, you will see will give quite a big importance to the marketing of raw materials because it is totally different. And by that, I'm not meaning that it's better or worse or more complicated or simpler than the retail marketing, but nothing to do. I remember at a time I took an MBA a lot of time ago. I was already linked to raw materials in a different way, but I asked about marketing, and I missed the lack of this kind of marketing and sales of raw materials and the way it must be done. And they told me that in some way it was embedded in the more complex world of the retail marketing of the big consumer goods anyway. And it was a totally wrong answer that I got. This is not true. It is not embedded. Neither of them is embedded in the other one. It's simply totally different, and therefore I think it'll draw a big attention and big interest from you as we'll be covering that. Then we'll cover, not in depth, of course, we won't have time to, that the world of energy, because you all know, and it's quite evident how much linked the world of raw materials and the world of energy are linked. Then the mining life cycle, starting, of course, by permitting. Who is not concerned about permitting whenever starting or going to start a project? Exploration, evaluation of a deposit, the mining or exploitation of a mine deposit, so the design of a mine and the extracting activities in the ancillary services that are needed to do that, like explosives, the management of tailings, so important nowadays because of environmental stringent regulations by all the countries in the world. The need, of course, of maintenance. Then mineral processing, a very complex world in the mining of metals. Then metallurgy and other transformations, copper, aluminum, and steel, cement, then rehabilitation of exhausted mines and mine places, energy in the way of how energy plays a very important role in the cost structure of a mining company or a metallurgical company, or any kind of plant that transforms raw materials into final products. Of course, safety and health, how important all that is nowadays, more important than ever. And then a very important thing, which will be field visits. And I very strongly recommend you to attend those visits. You'll see how, you'll never forget, once you visit the facilities that we'll be planning to visit, you'll see that you won't ever forget those visits. So much you'll learn by this. Of course, they will be short, but very much filled with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that you'll be part of. Then sustainability, no need to talk about that in the world that we live today. The demands by the society, all what we now know as ESG, companies are in many cases rated by the degree of ESG that they've reached. E means this acronym stands for environmental, social, and governance. All that is key. Environmental, no need to explain why is it important. Social, because we don't only have to take care of our own employees in our own companies, but also about the communities where we develop in our activities and all the stakeholders that are in some way affected by our own activity, directly or indirectly. And governance leading to transparency. And transparency is a key element in today's appreciation or the spice of the society to companies that follow or not follow these rules of transparency. We'll be talking about decarbonization, of course, very important aim, very difficult aim. Let's be realistic, and we'll tackle that in a very realistic way. What is possible to be done in decarbonization and what it is not possible to be done yet. Maybe in some years ahead, they will be possible. Now they are subject to many articles, many congresses, many conferences, many clusters, and you know, and many ways of communication, but not in a realistic way. There are some who are realistic and that can be done, especially if they are done in a co-operation and co-work between the public sector and the private sector. Then we'll tackle also the finance in the corporate world, what has to do, starting by a mineral project evaluation, risk versus uncertainty, very important. Financing structures and strategies. Mining projects usually are very capital intensive, and they need not only the own resources of the companies that are starting a given project, but also loans and other sources of external finance that will cover the whole investment that we'll have to be facing. Then the investment portfolio of a given company. So how a company can define and why the portfolio of minerals that it'll be being linked to, either producing or transforming or trading or selling or buying. You'll see that there are very different strategies. In this, there are companies that are very much focused on a given product, a given metal, or a given rock, and there are companies that cover a wide range of maybe 10 different materials at the same time. Then a cash flow modeling in the P&L, in other words, the control of how things are being done from the financial point of view in a company, and how to control that by numbers, by the cash control and balance sheet control in a company is an extremely important tool for a company management to do it in the perfect way on a day-to-day basis. And then a more generic subject covering how to manage a mining company in today's world. This will be very generic, but I think very useful and interesting. Then I've already mentioned the marketing and business fundamentals and pricing, how the commodities and futures exchanges work in the metals world, logistics and distribution of raw materials that is absolutely key. It's amazing, and in some of the sessions you'll see how the flows from different parts of the world to other are big in size, and how the shipping, the port activities have become so essential for the life of companies in this area of the economy. And then project, the development of a given project that you'll be carrying out, and it covers all that you've seen, all those bullets. That is actually what is done, is needed to be done when facing the development of a mining project or a metallurgical or a big transformation plant project. You have it there, so I won't go item by item, but it is very important. And some attendant to previous sessions, previous editions of this master have required to put this to sort of wrap up a project in this way, so that you guys finish the MBA with a good idea of how to face and how to carry out the evaluation of a mining or any kind of raw material project for any perspective, be it a mining company, be it a bank, a financial institution, being a trading house, being a shipping company, being from all these perspectives, and I think you'll enjoy it. So I think this is all that I had to share with you. Hope that you'll be really enjoying and being drawn by the very, very meaningful content of this MBA, and hoping that it'll help you enjoy much more your profession, your professional activity, and add more value to your own work. Thank you very much for your presence and your attention. Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
I'll be looking forward to see you all on the sessions, on some of the sessions that I'll be part of, and some of them that I'll be just presenting them, introducing the part of the professors that are key and first class professionals of all these activities, and I think they'll have a lot to say about these subjects. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.